Hello everybody, welcome in. Today we have the bear light on because of all the stuff going on in the market. But that being said, we're not going to talk about news, we're going to talk about VeChain, which is one that you guys have asked me to analyze for a very long time. So as usual, let's not waste any more time and talk about math, money and freedom. Does it make sense to buy VeChain or does it not? Or is it the biggest and hottest altcoin we'll ever see? Let's have a look. And again, disclaimer, none of this is investment advice. This is edutainment. So enjoy, buckle in. We have a long way to go through. So this is my new token valuation process, 10-step process. Hopefully you've seen it once before. I did Polkadot a few days ago. And we will go through the same rigor and structure when we look at VeChain today. And first of all, background and what it does. So VeChain is based in Ethereum, which is great for Ethereum, and Ethereum is on fire even despite the turmoil in the market today. It is an enterprise-focused play, B2B. It tackles supply chains. For those of you who don't know much about supply chains, I'm going to cover them very quickly. It's blockchain that can handle up to 10,000 transactions per second. There are two types of tokens. The VeThor token is the fuel that runs the blockchain. So if you want to do something on the blockchain, you got to buy VeThor tokens. And VET tokens are the money that you can get a piece of the blockchain on. That's what people buy and invest to speculate on. Now, in other news, there's a little bit of good and bad news. So first of all, the good news, supply chain tracking is an industry ripe for disruption. And these guys have some really cool answers. And the pandemic needs to end so they can grow. They've had a hard time getting out there, selling the solution, being locked down over the last 12 to 15 months. Now, in terms of bad news, COVID-19 has stalled their rollout. So they would have been a lot bigger, a lot faster if it wasn't for the pandemic. And companies have decided to stick with traditional supply chain solutions because they're hurting right now in many different respects. And we saw the impact of the Suez Canal recently. And the other thing that could be construed as bad is VeThor needs to be used to pay for the blockchain. And that could be an issue in non-crypto friendly domiciles. So places like Turkey, maybe China, etc. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. So typically, a supply chain is an entire process of procuring all the pieces needed to make something to ultimately sell it to a consumer. So it starts with the demand for raw materials, logistics to a supplier, something's manufactured, then it's distributed and heads off to a retailer and ultimately sold to the consumer. And it can also involve down the line aftermarket activities as well. Now, if you imagine something like a car has to be put together with millions of different components, many, many different companies, and that is a logistical nightmare, and that's what supply chain management does. So that's one of the things that has me really intrigued. Now, the way VeChain tackles this whole issue is they digitize the process from beginning to end, and they do a whole bunch of cool things that typically can't be done in terms of tracking transactions, enhancing and guaranteeing quality, as well as having real-time information on exactly the whereabouts of all the different components. So much can be done on the blockchain. One of the other things that's very important is it's immutable, can't be changed. So stuff can't be stolen or hacked as easily as in the past. So that's kind of the value of the blockchain for the whole area of supply chain. So let's talk about a quick example of how it works. So VeChain is more than just a tagging solution. It also proves authenticity. Now imagine if you are buying something like a Louis Vuitton purse or a handbag or a very fine bottle of wine, and you have to track it from the place of original manufacture to your house. How can you prove its authenticity? And that's what these guys actually do as well, which is a big value add. So it can also work with any consumer application on any platform. It can also work with any business application. This whole supply chain management world is dominated by two big players, SAP and Oracle. It also has connectivity, wireless, RFID, etc. And it can also work with any tagging technology. And that's another cool thing. So it's extremely versatile to handle all sorts of areas that the typical supply chain industry faces. Now, how it plays, this is probably the coolest thing. So they call themselves BaaS, which is Blockchain as a Service, and that does it all. It can support project managers and operational staff and third-party service providers and end customers. It has all sorts of VeChain identifiers that can be plugged in anywhere. And it has all the infrastructure you need: data storage, escrow, smart contracts, APIs, you name it, all across the board, to be able to make sure that it is immutable, fully transparent, and of course also the smart contracts are embedded there, which is part of the Ethereum platform. Nothing but goodness. And again, this now is beginning to sound like all roads lead back to Ethereum. Now, when we talk about the target industries, obviously supply chain, but that incorporates everything. Anything that needs to be manufactured, for example, automotive, fashion, booze, food, travel, medicine, vaccination records, NFTs, identification, you name it. There's a very, very wide gamut of application for this technology, which is really cool. Let's look at the scorecard ranking of where VeChain sits based on all cryptos. Currently, this is kind of my short list of my favorites. Obviously starting with Bitcoin. Thank you, Elon Musk, for hammering Bitcoin today. Then Ethereum, then Binance Coin, Cardano, Polkadot, VeChain, and number 17 is Solana, which is the next one I'm going to do. But VeChain is number 16. Market cap is around just shy of 13 billion, which is very close to Solana. And it is trading right now at about 19 cents. So that's kind of where we are, where it stacks up. Now let's talk about some of the growth opportunities. So SCM is my abbreviation for supply chain management, because that's where they play. So the first question is, how big is the SCM market? And the global supply chain market, from a software perspective, enterprise software that is worth about $16 billion and expected to be $37 billion by the year 2027. And that's going to be important for my pricing model later. So the supply chain market makes up about 7% of global enterprise software market, which is worth just over $500 billion. Now the compound annual growth rate is 11%. And as I've mentioned before, Oracle and SAP dominate the space. And Salesforce is looking to get in, which is interesting. And we'll talk more about that in a minute too. So other growth opportunities, they hope to get to a situation where they can do 1 million transactions per day, which is huge. Coinbase listing talks are underway as well, and VeChain focuses on enterprise and business-to-business supply chain applications that cover, as I mentioned, supply chain, food, travel, all that good stuff. So a lot of opportunity for growth, but there's more. One of the items as well that Sunny Liu, the CEO, said, he said carbon is the new oil. And Salesforce recently went through a proof of concept where they tested VeChain to manage carbon credits for a whole bunch of different companies. And of course, becoming carbon neutral is very, very important for the future. So things like these types of use cases are very powerful and very compelling, and it really adds a lot of flame to the VeChain fire. So other value propositions as well. The supply chain management comes with a staggeringly high volume of transactions that would have to run through the blockchain. So for example, think of each bottle of wine from wineries in France being shipped all over the world. Think about each individual bottle as a transaction. Now, the other thing is both tokens are indispensable and vital for the ecosystem's functionality, which is cool. It's like a dual token system. And in my opinion, VeChain is one of the most undervalued altcoins in the space because they have true value. I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute too. There's another cool thing as well, value proposition, is dividend. Every VET token pays out VeThor dividend. It's not that much, but it could add up. So for example, the price for VeThor is just under 2 cents, and each VeChain token gets a daily rate of 0.000432 per VET token. So for example, if you have 10,000 VET tokens, cost you about $1,900 today, you would receive 4.32 VeThor tokens worth about $1.55 each, or 6.7 cents a day, or about $24-25 a year. And of course, this is an annualized dividend rate of about 1.3%. So it's something. It's not going to make you rich overnight, but it's something. Now, if the VeThor price increases faster than that of VeChain, the dividend yield, of course, will rise as well. So that's a really cool little bonus that you wouldn't otherwise expect. Now, in terms of technology, it does run on the Ethereum platform. Again, Ethereum is everywhere. It has a system called Proof of Authority, and that is managed by authority masternodes. And 90% of total transaction volume on VeChain is smart contract executions, again, enabled by Ethereum. One of the reasons I love Ethereum so much is it's everywhere. It's omnipresent. And the Salesforce.com head of architecture tested VeChain, and he gave it a big thumbs up. So you can see a strategic relationship brewing here behind the scenes, because Salesforce probably want to get a piece of the Oracle and SAP action, which is kind of fun. So let's look at the ecosystem. They have a powerful ecosystem, and they cover everything from financial services to shipping and logistics to tech partners, agriculture, where they can ensure the quality of food and the location of food, transportation insurance, commodities, etc. And some of the big partners they have are really, really compelling. They work with Walmart, Amazon Web Services, Docomo, PricewaterhouseCoopers, DNV, which is a big assurance company, DIG, a wine importer, hence I mentioned wine, car companies like Renault and BMW, LVMH, of course, Louis Vuitton is there because that's where the CEO came from. Haya, they make a lot of the white goods like refrigerators. DHL, a shipping company, in Jiangsu, and tons of others. So lots of very big established names are already embracing this technology and testing it out. Now let's talk about the longevity and track record. So the founder, Sunny Liu, he launched this in 2015. So it's been a long time in the works. Unlike Polkadot, which is really only like 6 months in the works, this is well established and been around for over 6 years. Now the platform is also backed by the Chinese government and has even been promoted by state media. So I know I'm going to hear some groans in the audience there for a second, but China is also everywhere. Now this company is based in Singapore with very tight relationships to China, and a lot of the network that they actually build, some of the companies I mentioned before, are actually Chinese as well. So bear that in mind too. Now, price prediction, my favorite piece. So let's look at the supply as always. The fixed supply is about 86.7 billion VeChain tokens. The circulating supply is 65 billion tokens today, right now. And VeThor has no max supply because it's the cash to run the network, so you never want to limit that anyway. So that makes perfect sense. But really, we're just focused on the VeChain token supply, which is nearly 100 billion. So when you have 100 billion of anything, it gets really expensive real fast. So let's go a little bit further. And first of all, I'm going to show my model first. So this model goes out for the next 10 years till 2030. I looked at the total addressable market. I estimated some market shares of VeChain, starting at 0.18% of the market, going all the way to 3.83%, which would be huge if they could pull that off. And then I calculate their market share in terms of dollar amounts, calculate a VeChain fee of 3.5%, and then multiply that by 20x, being the multiple on the revenue, which is very generous. Your typical company typically is valued at 6x revenue. And then I divide that by the number of tokens, and I get a VeChain value. Now, the VeChain value that I calculate ranges from 1 cent in 2021 all the way to 33 cents in the year 2030. If we look at 2025, the value based on this model should be about 10 cents. So what does that tell you? When it's trading at 19 cents today, and my model tells me if they execute perfectly and start taking over the world, up to nearly 3 or 4% of all global supply chain commerce, that would be huge. But it tells me as well, to increase their valuation, they need to get into other lines of business as well. Because the supply chain market, although it's huge, it will not be enough to justify a higher model from where we are today. Now, I pulled in some other models as well from other people. We have BitBoy here, who is the #1 crypto guy on the web. And he did a video on VeChain in Feb a few weeks ago. And he believes VeChain is going to go over $1. He didn't say within what time frame. So Ben, if you're there, give me a call. Let's talk about valuation models in VeChain. I'd love to know how you came up with the dollar. And now the other ones I pulled in as well, some different models. This from Trading Beasts. They reckon VeChain could be worth as high as 8 cents in 2021, considering it's 19 now, it's double, maybe 2.5 times that, up to 11 cents in 2024. I have another model as well from Wallet Investor, 7 cents up to 21 cents, 22 cents in 2025. And Digital Coin, again, 8 cents up to 18 cents. So these ones are all kind of tight in together, very similar, but between BitBoy over $1, these guys are all kind of the same. And me, as usual, hyper-conservative, sandbagging like hell. I don't know. Let's jump into the conclusion. So first of all, real value is sometimes not recognized. So there's tokens out there like SafeMoon and Dogecoin. They have no intrinsic value. They're kind of meme coins of the highest order. And then you have VeChain that actually is doing business, is conducting business, is making money, is processing thousands of transactions, is helping real life companies like BMW and Haya and all these other places to do business. And you see Dogecoin exploding. So that's just the world we live in today. So the reason I mention this as well, because if people start recognizing that VeChain does have value, there's no reason in my mind why I couldn't go parabolic like some of these other names. So just want to share that. But again, remember my pricing model? 32, 33 cents by the year 2030 is the fair value if they execute perfectly and get a really high multiple. So that's kind of my math. The historical risks, obviously VeChain was hacked in the year 2019 and they lost about $6.5 million. So they've obviously probably beefed up their security. But the point is they were hacked. So there is that risk too, which can have a big impact on price. And real value is not recognized. So per my model, as I mentioned, VeChain could be fairly valued at 31 cents out to 2030, but don't expect $1 or $10 price anytime soon. There's a lot of YouTubers saying VeChain is going to $10. When they see the crazy action from Dogecoin, of course it's easy to believe that, but fundamental pricing is different. So I see this purely as a speculative asset right now. I think VeChain have a lot further to go in areas like identity management, NFTs, carbon credits has me very excited. Can you imagine lining up all the airlines with carbon credits and managing that? That would be cool. But we are very, very early, and they do have some solid partnerships tied up. They work with PricewaterhouseCoopers, for example. PricewaterhouseCoopers is a huge implementer of supply chain solutions. So that's positive as well. So net, speculation only. This is not something that's going to go parabolic. And if it does, it'll be like a meme stock, like a Dogecoin or something else. So big thanks to the Patreon community. You guys are asking for this. Hope you like it. Hope it doesn't disappoint. I know many of you are thinking it was going to $10, but if it does, it's completely overvalued. And I hope you like this content. And let me know down below what you want me to do next. I have requests for Chainlink, Solana, and a whole bunch of others. A lot of people are talking about Litecoin now as well. So let me know what you think. Be safe, everybody. Take care.